On the news tonight, State House of Assembly calls for the conduct of by-election for Udu constituency. Federal Executive Council approves 27 road projects across 15 states. In sports, Morocco secures a place in round 16 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Abroad, torrential rains leave at least 12 persons dead in Ghana. Good evening and welcome to the Delta Television main news. I am Ogaga Ekama. You can also follow our news online on Facebook and YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba or visit our website www.dbsasaba.com. The State House of Assembly has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to conduct a by-election for Udu constituency following the defection of his representative, Honorable Collins Ogbetama, from the All Progressives Congress (APC) to the Nigeria Democratic Congress (NDC). The decision followed the reading at plenary of a letter from the lawmaker formally notifying the House of his defection. Favor Okafor reports.
Following deliberations, the leader of the House, Honorable Emeka Nwobi, relying on relevant provisions of the Constitution, moved a motion declaring the Udu constituency seat vacant and urging the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to conduct a by-election to fill the vacancy.
Now, therefore, I move that this Honorable House, 1. Notes the documentary evidence, the letter before the House, confirming the defection of the Honorable Member representing the State Congress from all Progressives Congress (APC) to Nigeria Democratic Congress (NDC). The right council to give effect to the resolution of this Honorable House in accordance with Section 109(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria as ordered by the formally declared NDC vacant.
The motion received unanimous support from members and was subsequently adopted. The Speaker thereafter declared the seat vacant in line with the relevant provisions of the Constitution.
Section 109(1) and 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as altered, I hereby declare the seat of the Honorable Member representing Udu State Constituency vacant with immediate effect. The clerk of the House is hereby directed to communicate the resolution of the House and declaration forthwith to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and all other relevant authorities.
Also at plenary, the Delta State Public and Private Properties Protection Amendment Bill scaled second reading after receiving overwhelming support from lawmakers. Members noted that the amendment seeks to strengthen the existing law by establishing a task force to enforce its provisions. The Speaker subsequently referred the bill to the Joint House Committees on Housing, Urban Renewal, Lands and Survey for further legislative scrutiny, directing the committees to report back to the House on July 17. The House also received a communication from the Office of the Auditor General for Local Government transmitting the audited financial statements and reports of the 25 local government councils in the state for the 2025 financial year. The Speaker also referred the document to the House Committee on Public Accounts for consideration and further legislative action. Favor Okafor reporting.
Meanwhile, the leader of the State House of Assembly, Honorable Emeka Nwobi, has defended the House's decision to declare the Udu constituency seat vacant, insisting that the action was guided strictly by the provisions of the Constitution. Over again to Favor Okafor for details.
The leader of the House, Honorable Emeka Nwobi, explained that the Assembly's resolution was based entirely on constitutional provisions governing defection by elected lawmakers. According to him, the affected lawmaker failed to meet the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) May 30 deadline as his letter of defection was dated June 19. Honorable Nwobi further stated that under the Constitution, a lawmaker can only defect from one political party to another where there is a division or crisis within the party on whose platform the member was elected.
A member of a House of Assembly shall vacate his seat in the House if, being a person whose election to the House of Assembly was sponsored by one political party, he resigns from the political party or he becomes a member of any other political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected. So the resolution of the House was predicated on the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as altered. There is a clear distinction between defections you probably have seen and what we are witnessing today. The letter of his resignation bears 19th of June 2026 and was received on a much later date. Now the INEC time frame for political parties to conduct their primaries ended on the 30th of May. So if you are predicating your movement, your defection, on joining a political party probably to secure a ticket for an election, it means, and your letter bears 19th of June, it means you were still a member of the APC as at the time you were contesting election in the other party.
He, however, urged the public not to view the Assembly's action as a witch hunt, stressing that the House merely carried out its constitutional responsibility and that its resolution was firmly backed by law. Favor Okafor reporting.
President Bola Tinubu has approved 27 road projects valued at over 3.9 trillion naira across 15 states as part of the federal government's drive to improve road infrastructure nationwide. Minister of Works David Umahi disclosed this while briefing journalists after the Federal Executive Council meeting held at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. According to the minister, the approved projects span Adamawa, Benue, Cross River, Ebonyi, Ekiti, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Niger, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Plateau, Taraba, and Yobe states. Umahi said the council approved the reaward of the 409-kilometer dual carriage project in Niger State under the tax credit scheme to businessman Aliko Dangote at a cost of 1.8 trillion naira. Other major approvals include 276 billion naira for the dualization of the Ilorin-Ogbomoso Road, 265 billion naira for the reconstruction of the Ishenyi-Erua-Agbesi Road linking Oyo and Kwara states, 217 billion naira for the dualization of the old alignment from Ijaye through the Federal Government College to Ilorin Road with a spur to Akimori, and 116 billion naira for the 21-kilometer Abakaliki-Afikpo Road in Ebonyi State. The council also approved 110 billion naira for the Ogbomoso-Oko-Ilupu Road in Oyo and Osun states, 104 billion naira for the rehabilitation of sections 1 and 2 of the Ilorin-Omori-Ebe-Kaba Obajana Road in Kwara and Kogi states, 98 billion naira for the construction of the 30-kilometer Idi-Araba-Ayede Olodo Road in Oyo State, and 92 billion naira for the rehabilitation of the Baban-Laban-Sharan Phase 2 Road in Plateau State. The minister stated that other approvals include 86 billion naira each for the reconstruction of the Enugu-Abakaliki Road with a flyover and the Adigbo-Ajayi-Tese-Akpa-Otupo Road, traversing Benue and Cross River states. The Federal Executive Council (FEC) has approved a major reform of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC), replacing military leadership with a civilian director general and structuring the scheme into 11 specialized skills-based streams. The decision was approved at a meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu in Abuja. Special Advisor to the Presidency on Policy and Coordination, Mrs. Hadiza Bala Usman, said the orientation program would be extended from 3 weeks to 6 weeks and would focus on civic responsibility, career development, and specialized skills training, adding that core members would choose from 11 streams based on their academic background and skills profile. Mrs. Bala Usman also disclosed that the personal parade would be replaced with a graduation ceremony, while the Attorney General of the Federation had been directed to amend the NYC Act to provide legal backing for the reforms. Another batch of Nigerians evacuated from South Africa arrived in Lagos as part of the federal government's ongoing voluntary repatriation program. The Air Peace flight carrying about 271 Nigerians landed at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport shortly before 11 a.m. after departing Johannesburg at about 5 a.m. local time. Officials of the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA), the Nigerian Immigration Service (NIS), and the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission (NITCOM) were on hand to receive the returnees. The latest evacuation is part of the federal government's ongoing efforts to assist Nigerians who have voluntarily chosen to return home amid rising anti-immigration tensions in South Africa. The exercise comes against the backdrop of a June 30 deadline declared by vigilante groups and other organizations demanding the departure of undocumented migrants from the country. President Tinubu approved the voluntary evacuation program earlier this month to enable Nigerians willing to leave South Africa to return home safely. Earlier in June, the federal government disclosed that 5 Air Peace evacuation flights had been approved after more than 500 Nigerians were screened for repatriation. Before the latest operation, 328 Nigerians had already been repatriated in 2 batches. The first flight, which landed on June 11, brought back 262 returnees, while a second batch of 66 arrived in Lagos on June 25. The evacuation exercise is being coordinated by the federal government in partnership with Air Peace and other relevant agencies. The federal government says it will engage with the South African government to seek compensation for Nigerians forced to leave behind businesses and properties amid anti-immigrant protests in the country. Acting Nigerian High Commissioner to South Africa, Alexander Ajayi, disclosed this during a television program as another batch of Nigerians arrives in Lagos from South Africa under the federal government's ongoing voluntary evacuation program. He said those being repatriated are Nigerians who voluntarily opted to return home ahead of the latest planned anti-immigrant protests. The envoy said the federal government had begun documenting businesses and properties abandoned by returnees and would engage the South African government to seek adequate compensation. The acting High Commissioner also dismissed claims that most Nigerians in South Africa are undocumented, insisting that they largely migrated to the country legally. He attributed the situation to delays by the South African Home Office in processing the renewal of immigration documents for many foreign nationals, saying the affected immigrants should not be blamed for the backlog. First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu has launched the Community Food Bank program for the Northwest region in Hadejia, Jigawa State, as part of efforts to tackle food insecurity and malnutrition among vulnerable households. Speaking at the launch, Senator Oluremi Tinubu described the initiative as a deliberate and sustainable response to hunger and poor nutrition, saying it aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. She noted that the program is designed to strengthen food security, improve healthcare outcomes, and support the government's vision of building a more prosperous Nigeria. The First Lady commissioned several projects during her visit, including the Senator Oluremi Tinubu Road, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Road, Oluremi Tinubu Clinic and Dialysis Center, and the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Academy in Hadejia. She expressed confidence in Jigawa State's ability to successfully implement the program, citing the progress already recorded in Borno State, where hundreds of vulnerable children, pregnant women, and nursing mothers have benefited within 2 months of its introduction. Senator Tinubu called on individuals, organizations, institutions, and development partners across the Northwest to support the initiative. Responding, Governor Umar Namadi reaffirmed the commitment of Northwest governors to improving food security and nutrition for vulnerable families across the region. Governor Namadi also said local government councils across the region would work with state agencies and community structures to ensure the Community Food Bank program becomes a reliable platform for food support, nutrition protection, and social welfare. The federal government has inaugurated the Planning and Implementation Committee for the 2026 World Teachers' Day celebration and the President's Teachers and Schools Excellence Awards as part of efforts to recognize outstanding educators and strengthen the teaching profession. The inauguration held in Abuja underscores the government's commitment to promoting quality education and rewarding excellence in teaching. Speaking at the event, the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, Mr. Abel Enito, described teachers as the foundation of sustainable educational development, stressing that Nigeria's human capital development goals depend on a motivated, qualified, and professionally supported teaching workforce. Mr. Enito urged members of the committee to uphold the principles of fairness, transparency, integrity, accountability, and merit throughout the planning and implementation of the program. He said the committee would coordinate the nomination, screening and verification of candidates from the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory for the President's Teachers and Schools Excellence Awards. The committee is also expected to develop activities for the World Teachers' Day celebration scheduled for October 5, 2026, mobilize partnerships, and establish monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to ensure the successful implementation of the program. Representatives of key education stakeholders, including the Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council, the Nigerian Union of Teachers, NUT, the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, the National Commission for Colleges of Education, NCCE, and development partners pledged their support for a transparent and credible selection process. The federal government has concluded the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement with the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institutions, NASU. NASU President Peters Adeyemi confirmed the development, saying the union will issue a formal statement later. The agreement covers the welfare and conditions of service of non-academic university workers. The renegotiation process, which began in October, had been delayed for months, prompting SANU and NASU to embark on a warning strike in May. The unions had rejected the federal government's proposed 30% salary increase and demanded a 40% increment. The new agreement comes 6 months after the government concluded a similar negotiation with Academic Staff Union of Universities. The 2009 agreements were originally meant to be reviewed every 3 years, but had remained unresolved for more than a decade, leading to repeated industrial actions in public universities. Still to come on the news, torrential rains leave at least 12 persons dead in Ghana. Details of this and more coming up shortly.
We have a governor who is managing the resources of the state very, very prudently. When we say that governance will not cease because we are in what you may call pre-election year, you could see that the governor is walking the talk. He's looking ahead by delivering projects that touches the life of the people. We are doing this supervision and tour of these projects because the governor has made it clear that if you fall short of the provisions in the Bill of Engineering Measurement and Evaluation, we will blacklist you. And we are seeing much more quality work coming in. We're also seeing greater speed.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on the news. At least 12 people have been confirmed dead after torrential rains triggered widespread flooding across parts of Ghana, including the capital, Accra. The Ghana National Fire Service said the victims include 3 women, 8 men, and 1 child, adding that more than 470 people have been rescued as emergency operations continue. President John Mahama said preliminary data showed that about 140 millimeters of rain fell in Accra, describing it as the heaviest rainfall recorded in years. He noted that the highest single-day rainfall recorded last year was only about 56 millimeters. The president attributed the extreme weather to changing climate conditions, but acknowledged that recurring floods in Accra had also been worsened by poor drainage systems, unauthorized construction on waterways, and inadequate urban planning. To support relief efforts, the Ghanaian government has approved the release of 300 million cedis, equivalent to about $27 million, for emergency response. President Mahama also ordered the deployment of the Ghana Armed Forces and police personnel to work alongside the National Disaster Management Organization and other emergency responders in rescue and relief operations across the capital. Meanwhile, neighboring Côte d'Ivoire has also been affected by heavy rains, although authorities are yet to release an official death toll. Local sources say about 20 people may have lost their lives. The United Nations has warned that the ongoing Ebola outbreak in Central Africa could cost the continent up to $3.6 billion and lead to the loss of more than 328,000 jobs if the disease spreads further. According to the UN, the current outbreak of the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola, for which there is no approved vaccine or treatment, has affected 1,307 people and claimed 377 lives in the Democratic Republic of Congo since it was declared on May 15. A smaller number of infections have also been recorded in Uganda, while health experts have raised concerns that the virus could spread to neighboring countries, including South Sudan. The United Nations Development Programme resident representative in Congo, Damian Mama, said swift action and adequate funding are essential to contain the outbreak and prevent a wider humanitarian and economic crisis. The agency is calling for urgent international support to strengthen disease surveillance, improve healthcare response, and prevent the outbreak from escalating into a continental development crisis. The Executive Assistant to the Governor on Community Development, Barrister Benedicta Osakuni, has charged the 150 beneficiaries of the week-long skill acquisition training program for youths and women in Ndokwa Ukwani Federal Constituency to make judicious use of their starter packs. The training program organized by her office was in collaboration with WOOS International, with participants drawn from the 3 local government areas of Ndokwa Nation. The training imparted practical skill on participants in different areas, including kitchen craft, food safety and hygiene, soap making and fabric care, as well as makeup and special effects. The reports.
Speaking at the closing ceremony, the program, which was themed One Man, One Skill, Barrister Osakuni stressed that the starter packs were not meant for display but for productivity, wealth creation, and economic sustainability. She urged the graduates to see the acquired skill as a way of reducing poverty, becoming self-reliant and financially independent, stressing that the gesture could provide means of livelihood as well as create employment opportunity for others. Barrister Osakuni also expressed appreciation to the Governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Obowori, for approving and supporting the program, stressing that it would contribute immensely to the beneficiaries' success. She further commended the trainees and resource persons for their dedication and commitment in imparting practical knowledge to the beneficiaries. She urged the state government to revisit the issue of food handlers' bill in order to promote quality hygiene.
And in life, you must be ready to take one step. what will you do? That is why the Delta State government, every led by His Excellency, Right Honorable Elder Sheriff Francis, has made it compulsory that we must take the skills to the community to meet you people. We should not bring you out of your community.
The event, which attracted dignitaries and stakeholders, including the special advisor to the governor on community development, Dr. Tony Agbolaha, a representative of the member representing Okwane constituency in the State House of Assembly, the senior special assistant to the governor on youth development, Honorable Oji Chidi, Honorable Murphy Okbo, party faithfuls, community leaders, and well-wishers. Beneficiaries expressed gratitude to Governor Bowori and Barrister Benedicta Osakwini for facilitating the empowerment initiative and pledged to put the skill acquired into productive use without betraying the confidence reposed in them. Seasoned facilitator at the event were Chef Anwili Ogbonaya of Wolves and Partners, Mr. Eroto Alex, HOD Center for Entrepreneurship Development, Delta State University, Abraka, and Mrs. Ngozi Osakwini Dafe. The highlight of the event was the presentation of certificate and starter packs.
The state governor, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborevwori, has resolved the industrial crisis at the Delta State University Teaching Hospital, Delsuth, Ogara, Ethiop West local government area. The chief medical director of Delsuth, Professor Harrison Abedi, who disclosed this in Asaba after a meeting with Governor Oborevwori, described the intervention as timely for management and staff of the hospital. Professor Abedi said the governor met with the hospital's management and resolved issues that led to the workers' unrest, adding that Governor Oborevwori also addressed the prolonged power outage that had disrupted hospital operations and water supply for about 2 weeks. According to him, the state government had awarded a contract for the restoration of stable electricity supply, while the Ministry of Energy had commenced implementation, noting that a new high-tension transformer for a dedicated 33 kVA power line was being transported from Lagos for installation. The chief medical director said Governor Oborevwori directed him to work with the Commissioner for Health to ensure the rehabilitation and modernization of the teaching hospital. He expressed optimism that the governor's intervention would encourage the striking unions to suspend their industrial action and resume work. Professor Abedi commended the governor for his commitment to strengthen healthcare delivery in the state, describing the intervention as responsive and people-centered leadership. The governing board, management and staff of the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission, DESOPADEC, have congratulated the managing director and chief executive officer of the commission, Chief Festus Ochonogo, on the occasion of his birthday. In a goodwill message, chairman of the governing board, Olusegun John Nani, commended Chief Ochonogo for his dedication and commitment to the effective implementation of the board's policies and development programs. Olusegun Nani described the celebrant as a dependable, diligent, and visionary administrator whose prudent coordination of the commission's activities had continued to advance the more agenda of Governor Sheriff Oborevwori, particularly in improving the welfare of people in oil-producing communities. He said Chief Ochonogo's leadership had contributed significantly to the achievements recorded in infrastructure development, community empowerment, human capital development, and institutional efficiency. The management and staff of the DESOPADEC also paid tribute to Chief Ochonogo, describing him as an approachable, focused, and result-oriented leader whose leadership style had fostered a productive work environment within the commission. They prayed God to grant the celebrant wisdom and sound health in his continued commitment to the commission's mandate of promoting sustainable development in oil-producing communities across the state. The Delta State Police Command has arrested 85 suspects for offenses including kidnapping, murder, cultism, and drug trafficking during a statewide security crackdown carried out over the past 2 months. Speaking at the command's second quarter press briefing in Asaba, Commissioner of Police Yemi Oyeniyi said the operations conducted between April 29 and June 29 also led to the rescue of 18 kidnapped victims and the recovery of 32 firearms, including AK-47 rifles, pump-action guns, and pistols, along with hundreds of rounds of ammunition. The police commissioner said major successes included the arrest of suspected kidnappers, the rescue of a 3-year-old child allegedly abducted by a commercial motorcyclist, and the apprehension of suspects linked to separate murder cases. He added that the command also intensified its anti-cultism campaign, arresting dozens of suspected cult members during raids across the state. CP Oyeniyi assured residents that the command would sustain intelligence-led operations and urged the public to continue supporting security agencies with credible information to keep Delta State safe. Outstanding consumer credit in Nigeria fell by 780 billion naira in 1 month to 3.03 trillion naira in February 2026. This is as high borrowing costs continued to weigh on household demand for loans, despite improving macroeconomic conditions. The decline was contained in the Central Bank of Nigeria's CBN February 2026 economic report obtained from the Apex Bank's website, which showed that consumer credit dropped from 3.81 trillion naira in January to 3.03 trillion naira in February, driven by reductions in both personal and retail loans. The report, however, indicated that credit to the broader economy continued to expand during the review period. According to the CBN, total credit to the economy increased by 0.82% to 57.88 trillion naira at end February 2026, from 57.41 trillion naira in the preceding month, mirroring the gradual improvement in monetary conditions. The Apex Bank noted that lending growth was largely driven by productive sectors of the economy and that the growth was broad-based. The contraction in consumer credit came even as monetary conditions showed signs of easing. Households across parts of the country are beginning to experience relief as retail prices of liquefied petroleum gas, popularly known as cooking gas, decline following improved product supply and softer depot prices. The latest market update from gas marketers showed that retail LPG prices have started easing in major cities after weeks of elevated prices, although the reductions have not been uniform because of varying transportation costs, distance from supply depots, and retailer margins. Checks by marketers indicated that cooking gas is now selling for between 1,100 naira and 1,350 naira per kilogram in Lagos, Ibadan, and Abeokuta, while consumers in Benin City, Port Harcourt, and Warri are paying between 1,150 naira and 1,400 naira per kilogram. In Onitsha and Enugu, retail prices range from 1,200 naira to 1,450 naira per kilogram, while consumers in Abuja pay between 1,250 naira and 1,500 naira per kilogram. The national president of the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, Edu Inyang, said northern cities, including Kano and Kaduna, currently record prices of 1,300 naira to 1,550 naira per kilogram, while consumers in Maiduguri and parts of the northeast still pay the highest prices, ranging from 1,350 naira to 1,650 naira per kilogram, reflecting the additional logistics costs of transporting products to the region. The improvement marks a reversal from the sharp increases witnessed from May, when supply tightness and rising depot prices pushed cooking gas costs significantly higher across several parts of the country. In sports, Morocco has secured a place in the round of 16 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup after defeating the Netherlands 3-2 on penalties in their round of 32 encounter played at Estadio BBVA in Guadalupe, Mexico at the early hours of today. The match ended 1-1 after 120 minutes of action. The Netherlands took the lead in the 72nd minute through Cody Gakpo, but Morocco fought back deep into stoppage time as Issa Diop scored a late equalizer in the 91st minute to force extra time. With both sides unable to find a winner, the contest was decided through a penalty shootout. Morocco eventually triumphed 3-2 from the spot, to advance to the next stage of the tournament. The former African champions will now face co-hosts Canada in the round of 16 on Saturday at the NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, United States. Next is the thought for the day. Every great nation is built by ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things consistently. To end the news, here again are the highlights. The State House of Assembly has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to conduct a by-election for Udu constituency following the defection of its representative, Honorable Collins Ogbetama, from the All Progressives Congress (APC) to the Nigeria Democratic Congress (NDC. The decision followed the reading at plenary of a letter from the lawmaker formally notifying the House of his defection. President Bola Tinubu has approved 27 road projects valued at over 3.9 trillion naira across 15 states as part of the federal government's drive to improve road infrastructure nationwide. Minister of Works David Umahi disclosed this while briefing journalists after the Federal Executive Council meeting held at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Morocco has secured a place in the round of 16 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup after defeating the Netherlands 3-2 on penalties in their round of 32 encounter played at Estadio BBVA in Guadalupe, Mexico, at the early hours of today. At least 12 people have been confirmed dead after torrential rains triggered widespread flooding across parts of Ghana, including the capital, Accra. You can also follow our news online on Facebook and YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba, or visit our website www.dbsasaba.com. Many thanks for watching. I am Ogaga Ikama. Good evening.